Wanted to make this video real quick to show you how to edit and manipulate the sounds on the Sound Glove soundboard. So I've got just a soundboard here. For your USB cable, it needs to be a micro USB, and it needs to be able to support data transfer. Many of the cables you might have lying around the house that are micro USB will officially fit in there and will power the board, but it won't necessarily allow for data transfer. I will have a link to a specific one that does support data transfer. So if you go through all your cables and find that none of them seem to work, that's probably the reason. You'll just want to buy a new cable. They're pretty cheap. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to plug it in first. Many times this connection is not perfect, and so you'll need to go through and kind of wiggle it or maybe hold it in just the perfect little perfect orientation. But what you'll be waiting for is this blinking light and for your computer to register. So on the other end of this cable, I have it plugged into a USB connection on my computer. And then this one's really easy. This one seems to not be finicky at all, but many of them are a little bit finicky. You'll just need to wiggle it around, make sure you hear the intonation from your computer. And now we'll swap over to the computer to look at all the files and how to manipulate everything from that side. Okay, so now on the computer side, I'm going to plug in the board. On many computers, you'll just have it pop right up into a folder. You'll see here, it's on my computer, it's labeled as USB drive H. Most computers will just read this as a USB flash drive. So here are the four folders. These are the four folders for your soundboards. If you've got a forearm mount, then the folders correspond with the buttons 1, 2, 3, 4. If you've got a wrist mounted glove, it starts with 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you're unsure exactly how yours is set up, you can just plug it in and then open up the folders, and you'll see the different sound files and can even listen to the different sound files. First, let's talk about editing or moving a couple of the sounds. So let's say we've got this Jawa sound glove, and we want our Jawa costume to work with a static R2-D2 prop. So let's add in some R2-D2 sounds to our sound glove so that we can talk and interact with the R2 all with our one glove. So for this example, I'm going to edit the sound files in folder number 2. So this will be button number 2 for my sound glove. So let's go in, and I'm just going to go in and delete, push the delete key, and delete all the items in folder number 2. Now, one thing to note is that when you are going through and adding sounds in, the order in which you add them is the order that they will play when you're pressing the button. So for example, with my button number 2, let's say I want cheerful R2-D2 to be the first click of the button, the first button press. So I'll add that in first. And then I can do sad R2 number 2, processing R2, and then very excited R2. So this will be the order in which they play when I press the button. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that I've added those sounds, I can just come over to here, click eject, and then the sound glove will register the new files, and I'll have no problems playing those sounds with my button number 2, all with new sounds. One thing to note is that these R2-D2 sound files are already ready to be used in the sound glove. They each have a 1 second delay, roughly a 1 second delay of no sound at the beginning of each sound clip. That gives me roughly a second to be able to push through all the sound files and choose the exact one that I want on that button. So for example, if I wanted to play sad R2, I would push, well, let's go in here. If I want to play sad R2, I would push the sound button 1, 2, 3 times. And having that second delay allows me the time to push those buttons without it starting to play the sounds above it. So with this,
you're also able to swap gloves completely between costumes. So let's go ahead and do that next. Okay, let's go ahead and let's swap out our Jawa and R2D2 glove for a Tusken Raider glove. So what we'll do is we're just going to go in and delete these 4 folders, wait for them to delete. And then I've got Tusken sounds ready to go, all with that 1 second delay, 16 sounds. And I'll just drag and drop those over and wait for them to load. Sometimes when you're doing this, the board won't understand what's going on. And so when you eject it and start pushing the buttons, sometimes it won't work or it'll only play one sound for all the buttons. If you have any issues like that, there's a really simple solution. The solution is just to get rid of this read file. And so what I'll do is I will drag and drop it to my desktop, go ahead and delete the read file, and then re-add it. So the read file has is the programming key that allows the soundboard to swap between different modes. So when we're having all 16 sounds being used, the read file will have a number 5 on it, and that will show that it's set up correctly. If you want to know more about the different ways that the soundboard can be used, I have this is the soundboard documentation all right here from the original manufacturer, as well as a README file that I put together that kind of explains what I'm explaining right here in this video. So what I'll do is I'll click refresh, make sure everything's in the right spots, and then now all these sound files are now added to the glove. It's super easy to go through and edit any of these sound files, swap them out, bring new ones in. There are a lot of people that will use one sound glove for multiple costumes. And when they're getting ready to troop with that costume, then they will just go ahead, remove all the sounds for the previous costume, and then just drag and drop sounds for their new costume. If you have multiple costumes, I have a lot of sound sets ready to go. And so you can just email me and see if I've already got the sound set. And if not, we can maybe work together on trying to figure out a good solution for you so that you can easily swap between multiple sound sets for one sound glove. The only other thing to mention is that sometimes the read file does get corrupted. Sometimes if you're moving it around a bunch, it can become corrupted somehow. I'm not really sure how it works. If that's the case, you can easily create a new one. Just go into Notepad, save a new read file. It needs to be called read.cfg, and I have that in my README file. But if you don't feel comfortable setting all that up, you could just email me and I will easily email you a new read.cfg file that will work perfectly. So once we've got this all taken care of, we can go ahead and click eject. It's not required to click eject. You could just unplug the glove, but sometimes, especially if you've got larger audio files you're syncing, you'll want to make sure that it is completely transferred over before unplugging it, and the eject functionality makes sure that's the case. So I'll just click eject, and you'll see that it says it's already in use. And that's because I've got a window open playing the sound. So I'll click try again. And there we go. It's completely ejected. And now I've got the new Tusken Raider sound set on this sound glove ready to go and be used in my next troop. If you have any questions or issues, most of it can just be solved by making sure you have the right cable, making sure that it's connected properly to your computer, and then making sure that the read file is working perfectly. But if you have any issues or questions beyond that, you can go ahead and email me or message me, and we can go ahead and troubleshoot it. We want to make sure that the glove is working perfectly for you and that you have no issues. So definitely reach out if you have any problems.